can go home after this, right?
And the other 9.
Okay. I'm Janet, by the way. I'm currently a biochemistry major, so I'm going to talk about something that interested for my major, which is food and nutrition, about frozen foods. Okay, so frozen produces and products, they have been categorized a lot about like junk food these days because of the sounds itself that it's been frozen and the looks that sometimes doesn't even look like real food because it's frozen. So that sometimes we don't really see that there's actually a lot of advantages from frozen foods. Frozen produces, actually, there's a lot more advantage on that rather than the fresh ones. Let me clarify first what a frozen food is. That, like, especially produces, when they picked from the field, for fresh ones, they don't pick when it's fully ripened. While the frozen ones, we wait until it's fully ripened so that it's full of its nutrients, vitamins, and oxidants. And then from that time when we pick when it's fully ripened, we froze it right away. So then that frozen, we call it a freezing loss, that it locks all the nutrition in there and we keep it until the time that we need to consume it. Whereas the fresh produces, we're not really waiting until it's fully ripened. We picked it because we need to relocate it to some other like stores, markets. Because when we picked it fully ripened, by the time you get to the markets or the stores, it's not good anymore. That's why the difference between the fresh produces and the frozen produces, for me, I like the frozen one better sometimes that it still has its nutrition fully in there. Okay, and then another advantage is like it's already clean and cut. For you guys that is always busy from work and school, how much time do you guys have to prepare food at all time? Like you're not gonna wash it, you're not gonna cut it and then cook it. I mean, see, that's the difference advantage. So I like it better. Not really like we always have it frozen. When we have time, when there's a family gather, probably a little better for the fresh produces. But for frozen ones, that actually has a lot of advantages that we never really know about, like these days, because we're like, oh, we're trying to be healthy, and then it's such on the frozen food. So that a scientist actually from a Leatherhead and then the University of Chester, they've been doing experiments between the frozen food and the fresh ones. That what else that they have when they keep in frozen and when they let it sit on the desk, like getting all its nutrition losses. But I just want to wrap it up like this. It's just such like a simple claim that I'm making today that you don't have to worry about like, should I eat this? Why is it? Should I buy like something fresh? If it's only once in a while, frozen food is fine. It has the same nutrition value of it, and then sometimes it's even better because it still has its nutrition on it. Thank you.
You can sit down. I'll speak loud enough you'll be able to hear me.
Thank you.
All right, Janet, I know what your subject is. I think your proposition needs to be more clearly identified because as you're starting off, it sounds to me like it's just a general piece of information that you start with. And then later on, I figured out, I guess the claim really is that there are advantages to frozen foods. So that's okay, but you ought to signpost it a little bit more clearly. There's not really a preview of what the supporting points are going to be. Now, I can pick out two things that sound pretty distinct. One is that there's greater nutritional value in the frozen foods than there is in the fresh foods. And then there's also a claim that it is apparently more prepared for consumption than fresh foods would be. And so if those are going to be the supporting points, you want to preview them at the beginning of the speech, and you don't really do that. I think that that's problematic. You kind of set up a little bit of the controversy by playing to people's stereotypes, that telling us that, you know, people think fresh food is all that, and that if it's not fresh, it's not worth eating. And I know that I've heard those kinds of things, so I can see why there is this presupposition that's built in there. And you're saying the opposite of that, so that sounds controversial. So you're okay there. But when you get to the body of the speech, there's not really any structure to that. And then on that whole first point, you make a claim that says fresh fruit loses its nutritional value as it travels. I didn't hear any evidence on that. You say it's pretty much worthless by the time it gets to your table. I didn't hear any proof on that. You said that the fresh fruit, that the food that is frozen immediately holds its nutritional value better. I didn't hear any evidence on that. Those are all assertions on your part. Now, there might be an authority that you made reference to in your own research, but that authority was not presented in the speech, and that's a problem because you need to cite those sources in the presentation. We don't know what information you consulted on this. It's not just a summary of what you heard. You're telling us what your argument is, and you haven't presented the evidence to support those points, and that's problematic. On the issue about it being prepared for us, and it's more prepared in its frozen form, you're relying mostly on hypothetical examples in this situation, which I think probably works with some of your illustrations, although I'm not sure that it works with all of those points. And again, there's not really any evidence on that. It's just kind of your assertion based on the hypotheticals that are being presented here. So I think that's a little bit problematic. You do a nice job speaking to us. You try to give us some credibility by telling us about your background as a biochemistry major, but in building the argument, it's like none of the stuff that you learned in your biochemistry class is being presented to us except in filtered through your impressions without providing any proof for it. So that's problematic. I think intuitively most people think that frozen foods are going to lose nutritional value, and you don't give us any reason to believe that they don't, and in fact that they are better off because you say, well, it's fresh frozen, you know, they freeze in the nutritional value. But like I said, that's your assertion. Where's your proof on that? And I didn't hear it. That to me is the big drawback in the presentation. All right, thank you for starting us off. It's